Hey everybody, thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel and welcome to my life. I'm Todd and this is Sweet Tea Guitars. I got two builds going on right now. One I'm calling Ryza, and it's loosely based on a Telecaster. We're pretty much to the point to where the Ryza build can have finish put on it once I final sand it. But I want to get the Requiem build to that point as well. I had talked earlier about using that flamed maple with the purple heart and the walnut. This is it right here. I've already got the fretboard slotted and glued on here. This is a hard maple fretboard for a piece of flame maple I got from C. Jacobs Woods with a piece of purple heart in the center, two mottled eucalyptus veneer strips, and then two pieces of walnut on the outside of that. This is the neck that I was originally intending on using on this Requiem build. The more I thought about it and knowing how beautiful that walnut top is, I decided that I was going to do a back angled headstock for this build. So I made a neck blank, pretty much that same configuration. I went to route it out on my router table with the template attached to it. Realized too late that the router bit, the cutters were slightly oversized from the bearing. It caused my neck to come in about 1 millimeter undersized. I can still use it on a different guitar. Okay, then I decided that I would just make a plain flamed maple one-piece neck with a Macassar ebony with the blonde streak fretboard. Here it is right here. I've already got the volute somewhat cut in. The neck is not shaped. I went to start routing this neck. The router bit caught on this corner right here, like it sometimes will do, and chipped out the ebony fretboard. What I did was went ahead and finished routing off, made this a 21 fret neck. So in all reality, we're on neck number 4 for the Requiem build. Thank goodness I got plenty of wood. You know, I glued up a neck blank with some nice figured curly maple. That center board is quarter sawn. As you can see, that's got 2 strips of nice flat sawn walnut, 2 pieces of plain maple on the outside, almost a full inch thick at this point. I've ran this whole side across the jointer. I actually got 8 of these center pieces out of 1 8/4 board, 36 inches long, from doing this L-shaped kind of cut right here. What we need to do right now, we want to mark us up a center line here. I've got my fretboard template from Maximum Guitar Works right here. I've got my Maximum Guitar Works 25.5 inch scale fret slotting template that can be used numerous ways. www.maximumguitarworks.com. Tell them Sweet Tea sent you. So what I've chosen to use for a fretboard on this build, this is a piece of Ziricote. I love Ziricote. It's super hard. It feels like ebony. It plays like ebony. Ziricote's perfect fretboard wood. I've got plenty of this wood left right here for my volute, or volute, if you're from somewhere else other than South Carolina. So I'm going to measure right here at the nut line. I want to be in the center of this piece of maple. So it looks like I am at just a hair over 25. So that would be 12.5. We'll do the same thing down on this end. So I've got 2 reference marks. There we go. I can take my long 36 inch ruler and I'll lay it upside down and just use it as a straight edge is all we're doing. All right, so there's our center line on that. We can put that to the side for just a minute. I've already ran this through the planer. I've jointed this side to make sure I had one nice square side when I go to put slot my frets. Let's mark out our center line. I can reference that to the center line scribed into the fretboard template. All I want to do is mark the front of my nut. Now we'll take our little machinist square. I'll reference it from the jointed edge. So there's our nut line. I'm going to go to the front side of the slot. Now I just want to take my square and I want to be as accurate as I possibly can. So there we are. Our fretboard's drawn up. Every time I made or I figured out, okay, there's a mistake on this that's causing me not to want to use this neck on this guitar, I kept having ideas as to what I actually wanted to do, which has made me realize the importance of a little forethought. I was in a hurry. I should have slowed myself down a little, let myself absorb what it actually was that I wanted to achieve. Any suggestions or any thoughts you guys have, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you like my videos, take the time to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. You know, I'll do the same for you if you guys have a YouTube channel. I want to get this fretboard slotted. I've already cut a few slots in here, but I wanted to stop and show you guys how I go about doing this. I've got this saw. This is the saw that I mainly use for fret slotting. It is 23 thousandths, which is perfect. So what I like to do is start and cut about the first 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter deep with this saw. That establishes the line because this is nice and stiff. Then I go in with this. This is an Irwin flush cut saw. So I finish the cut with this. $25 and you got both those saws. They both come in handy for other purposes as well. Now start the cut with this saw. And then once I get my line established, I make sure I don't change anything. I drop this saw in the slot and I rock the saw back and forth like this to go ahead and try to cut, you know, a little bit of that radius that I know this fretboard's going to have in it. Now I'm on the last 5 frets. At this point it starts getting difficult to hold. So I'll put the saw in the slot and just clamp my fretboard down. That gives me a little bit of extra support. We can take that scribed line and trace out our fretboard at this point. All right, so there is our fretboard. So when I go to cut this out, I will cut this off and leave myself some room on the end of this fretboard so I can actually incorporate a little slot in my fretboard that I can put my pen down in and adjust my truss rod. I also want it to overhang far enough that it covers this recess up that I cut in front of the neck pocket. There we go. Truss rod slot cut. I've got a rough shape drawn out here for my back angle of my headstock and my volute. Let's just get after it. What do you think? So I'm just going to jump on this with the hand plane just to get these scratches out first. Then I'll take it over to the jointer. And I just want to knock these ridges off is all I want to do. All right, I think we should be all right at this point. I can finalize this at a later time, but what I really want to do is just establish my angle. Check for tear out to make sure we're going the direction we need to be going. And what I'm looking at is I've got my nut line on there. I can see where my break starts to happen. And I can move it back and forth this way to make sure that I stay parallel to that line. So that is my plan. You can look on that side, I'm right on that line. I'll save myself some room for sanding. We're good to go. I've got the shape that I need, and I've got a 7-degree back angle. Now, let's check to see if we're flat to our reference side. And we are. I planned this out. I planned this out like I needed to. I want to run this across the jointer until I get all that surface down to the same level. Then we'll have a nice flat area on the back of the headstock area to work from. Let's check for tear out. It's dead on. We're good. The next thing I'd like to do is to mark out our headstock shape. And it looks like I'm meeting right up with those lines where I traced the neck template onto the other part of this neck. And any little minor corrections we need to make on that on this shape, we can do between when we go to bandsaw this out. We can do it there, or we can do it on the spindle sander. And as you can see, I'm pretty well lined up. There's not much else to do at this point but to cut out this neck shape. All right, here we go. So there's ultimately what my neck's gonna look like. Right there. It's gonna be beautiful. I'll run this through and thickness it on the spindle sander to its final thickness. But for now, let's get this excess wood cut off the back of this fretboard. I mean, of this neck blank, I'm sorry. All right. So there's what we're looking at now. Our Maxim Guitar Works Stratocaster neck template. We want to attach that to our neck blank, super glue and masking tape trick, and run the router up to the nut line. The rest of this I will catch with the spindle sander. So I've got my template attached. Let's get this neck routed. Got a nice clean route on the end. We're in good shape. I'm really happy with how that turned out. We're just going to cut this fretboard to within about 2 millimeters of the edge of the line. See what I've done there? I've got a little square or a rectangle drawn right there. That is going to be the access for our truss rod adjustment. So we're going to go over to the drill press. I have got a 1/4 inch Forstner bit in my drill press. I am going to drill in on my center line a hole straight through my fretboard. All right, so now I want to drill with that same Forstner bit a hole on either side of that. You know, I want to do some work with files and stuff in there to make that not just be a rectangle. So that's what we're looking at now. And I'll take my little 6mm chisel. And just pare away those points. So you can see it's already starting to take shape. So we'll take our flat file. We'll work on it from the front and get it like we want it. And we'll flip it over and work some from the back too to make sure everything's nice and symmetrical. All right, guys, there we are. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Just round it off right there on that end. All right, we're going to cut the end of this fretboard pretty close to this half round I got going on the end of there, and I'll show you guys what it is. I want to stay well away from this line. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to drill some locator pins in here. There's one. There's two. Now we can pop the clamps off. Let's get this fretboard glued on here. Let's get our 1/2 inch tape. Tight bind. We're going to use original. Spread this glue out nice. And I got all my clamps at the ready. There we go, guys. There's the Requiem neck. Using the neck that we've already surfaced on the router, we're going to get this fretboard cut down level with the side of this neck. I really appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. The first thing I'm going to do is work on this headstock down in here. I'm just going to leave this 2-inch. We'll use it first and I'll refine this shape. I may need to change over to a smaller or a larger drum at some point. I do want to clean this up around this outside edge, get everything like it needs to be, and then we can start thinking about what kind of shape. I'm thinking asymmetrical neck profile on this. So when I say asymmetrical, basically a little bit fatter on the base side of the neck, and then it flattens out, the taper flattens out as it goes towards the treble. It creates a really, really super comfortable feel in the hand. Let's get this sanding done. This is how I did this last time and it worked out really good. My tuners lined up really nice. So I've got the hole drilled in my headstock template at 10 millimeters. So this bit fits in here really tight and nice. I'm just going to do this by hand. Take my mallet. So I've pre-drilled for my tuners. I used a 4 millimeter drill bit to pre-drill these holes for the tuners. What we need to do at this point is to take our headstock over to the spindle sander and get a final thickness, or within a millimeter is where I like to be, of the final thickness on this headstock. So what I've done is I drew a line. I'm shooting for 13.5 to 14 millimeters. I don't want to take a chance on cutting off that, that 2 millimeters with the bandsaw. So let's get this done. There's where we're at right now. And that is just lovely. I really like it. I think what we should do at this point is start cutting our radius in to our fretboard. All right, so I'm going to get my number 4 hand plane, which I've got right here. All right, we're going for a 12-inch radius on this fretboard. Let's take our sanding block and put some 80 grit, because Zerakote is some tough stuff. And I'm just going to use the small one first. What I want to do right now is drill in a 12th fret marker. That's the only marker I'm putting on this fretboard. And what I'm going to do is use this piece of aluminum tube. I am going to sharpen this piece of maple in a pencil sharpener once I sand this end down a little bit so it'll actually fit up inside this thing. Then I'll hammer that down inside that tubing. We'll hit it with some super glue and some activator, and we'll have ourselves a fret marker, a custom fret marker that will look pretty cool in this fretboard, I think. I'm going to take the Incra and I'm going to find the center. Now we want to figure out the center this way. We'll use the Incra for that as well. I'm going to line it up on my center line. There's our center line. All right, I'm pretty happy with that placement. There's what we've got. I'm well above the surface. There's what I'm talking about. We'll put a fresh piece of 80 grit sandpaper. I'm really impressed with how that turned out. I'm happy with it. We're going to turn this neck over and start making ourselves some markups and start thinking about shaping this neck. Now I want to come down here right where I've got that heel section drawn in. There's our center line on that end. And let's come up here. And what I want to do on this end is find the center of that maple. And I'm going to shape this neck using the facet method. So I've got a line on the side, on the back, and on that side. Same thing down here. Got a line where my heel is going to end. And on that side, everything between here is fair game. So you guys know how I do this, and I've been criticized for not putting my neck in a holding jig, but I'm not going to this time either. I'm going to cut a facet from this line here to this line here. And on a laminate neck, you've got so many points of reference. When you're using contrasting woods, you can see where you are on your facet. All right, so there's my first facet. Oh, it's starting to feel like a guitar neck already. I really love this part. I've got my neck clamped to the table. I've put out my assortment of tools so you guys can get an idea of the tools that are involved to do a proper hand neck shape. So I've got a short and a long generic dragon rasp. They're not the original StewMac, but these things feel like a cat tongue. They work really well. I've got the ever popular Shinto saw rasp. These are great. I've got an Iwasaki half round fine cut 150 millimeter file. And then I've got a medium cut Iwasaki half round. Between these tools I've got right here, you could pretty much carve any neck you wanted to carve. The way it stands right now, I've got facets. I've got 1, 2, 3 facets on the bass side. I've got 3 facets on the treble side. What I'm going to do at this point is shave this one facet between the bottom 2 on the treble side. I'm going to turn that into 1 facet. I want to take right in front of this volute, but still on my first fret area. I want to start taking this down. So what we're going to do is start working in, taking all this material off of the center of this neck to start bringing that surface down to a more manageable thickness. All right, that's more of what I was after. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see this or not, but I've got a slight slant towards the treble side. So it's slanted that way just a little. I've sanded this to 80 grit just to double check my my profile. This is a really, really nice feeling neck. I cannot wait to play this guitar. My volute's still a little bit tall. I want to bring this concave shape, this swoop right here, I want to bring that back just a little. I need about 1/8 of an inch more flat before it goes up into that contour. I absolutely love building guitars. It is, you know, if you guys haven't figured that out about me already, this is absolutely the epitome of me. This is what I do right here. I love this. I've given myself over to it, and it has rewarded me with inspiration, with happiness, with joy, with creative vision, with endless idea flow. I absolutely love this. It's the greatest thing. All right, so I want to work on this area right here. I'm going to use this small Iwasaki file. I'm going to use the smaller of the two of these generic dragon rasps. I want to just create this shape around here. This little block right here is one of my favorites for this kind of work. This is a motor guard, and as you can see, it's got a non-symmetrical teardrop shape to it that gives you many different surfaces to choose from. And I've got this, you know, carved far enough down at this point where I can switch over to sandpaper without too much of a worry. And all I want to do is create a nice, flowing, comfortable shape. And I'll show you one thing that I'm trying to get rid of right now. Right there, that little hard bump where it takes, where it goes up into the body. I don't want that bump, so I'm going to shave that off. So that's kind of what I'm talking about right there. That shape's nice and fluid now. It, you know, it kind of fades up into the body instead of there being a bump right there. And especially on this side, that's really important. And it will become more important as I cut this recess in the back of here. All right, let's take a pass of some 80 grit down the whole length of the neck. That'll give us a view of where we actually are right now. All right, I don't feel any inconsistencies right here. I'm happy with that. It's going to meet up nicely with the body. We're nice and flat now, all the way down the surface of the back of this neck. We're great. So what I'm going to do at this point is turn this thing over, and let's finalize and work on this shape down here in the volute area, or volute, down in this area, right as it starts to go down into the neck shape. All I wanted to do was move this slant at the bottom of that back just a little to give me a little bit better access, but still preserve the comfort that you get from playing, having a volute on the neck. this area right here. I don't want that slope going straight into a flat. I want to create a concave that kind of fades back into the neck. That creates a little bit more sanding work, but it also looks really cool. So how I'd like to do that, just take my scraper and start working from the middle out to the sides. This is one of the parts of guitar building that I absolutely love doing, is shaping the neck. I mean, you really get in touch with your instrument. So on that shape right there, it created like a bowl, slightly. It's just concave inside of that volute a little bit. I like that. On the neck, I find it useful, honestly, to do all the sanding by hand. There's our neck in its current state, which is pretty much done. Anything worth doing is worth doing right. So this guitar is getting one pickup, a bridge pickup. I'm going to place it slightly further away from the bridge than you would normally see. So say on a Floyd Rose guitar, it may be 6 to 8 millimeters away from the front side of the bridge if it's a Floyd. This guitar is getting a Strat tremolo, 2-point. I may put a Floyd on it, but it'll be surface mount. I have not decided yet. Anyway, one humbucking pickup in the bridge position, about 10 millimeters away from the front of the bridge, with a push-pull pot for a volume knob. It turns the coil closest to the bridge off, single coil switching. That way, I've got a decent rhythm sound closer to the middle than would be able to be achieved if I put that bridge in the standard location. I think that's going to give me a little bit more of that silky mid-range quack that you get from a Stratocaster, which will add some versatility to the tone of this guitar, considering it's only going to have one pickup. The reason I decided to only use one pickup on this build is because it allows me to show as much of this beautiful figured wood as I possibly can. I'm not cramping up the center of this build trying to fit 3 pickups in there. You know, I can keep all this clean, one volume knob. It'll look really elegantly understated, which is what I'm kind of after as a guitar builder. I don't want to pack as much gadgetry onto a guitar that I possibly can. I would rather have 2 or 3 guitars to achieve the tone I'm after than to start putting a bunch of knobs and buttons on one guitar. I'm not a fan of that. I'm knocked out by this. I've taken a lot of time on this guitar making decisions alone, much less building 4 necks and, doing all the other things I've done. But I'm happy with how this is turning out. I really, really do love it. All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up right here. This video has been all about the neck. We need to finish drilling these tuner holes. I need to install my inserts. So we've got some work to do, but I kind of wanted to incorporate that part of the rest of this build into the body video. I've made some decisions, and we'll talk about these when we get to the beginning of the next video about what I'm going to do on this guitar. I really, truly appreciate you guys taking the time out of your lives to spend 30 or 45 minutes with me, watching me do what I love to do. I absolutely love building guitars. If I can rub off on any of you, then that is my goal here. That is why I make these videos. Guitar building has just done so much for me. It's enriched my life on such a level I can't even put it into words. If you guys are thinking about getting into building guitars, I absolutely recommend it. Spend a little time, read a few books, do some research, find out what you need to know going into this to approach this with some level of confidence so you're not dampened by frustration, because it can be very frustrating. I've made some mistakes on this build already, but I knew there was a possibility that I was going to make a mistake when I started the process, you know? So it's kind of one of those things where I didn't expect failure, but I was mentally prepared to deal with it if that happened. And I will not let my passion be killed by a simple mistake, which 90% of the time can be fixed anyway. So, you know, take it slow, build what you love, build what you see, and just give it a go, you know? Just give yourself over to it. I promise you it will reward you tenfold. It's whatever your passion, whatever you're driven inside of yourself to do more of that. I'm telling you, the world is a better place the more people who pursue the thing that drives them inside, that makes them happy, that lights their fire. It really makes the world a better place. I promise you it does. And I want you guys to remember until next time, life is a journey best shared. Peace and love.